I'm here with Jacek Levernes, chairman of ABSL, at the ABSL Western Balkans Conference Gala at the Sarajevo City Hall, and we'll talk about business services, development, and some practical advice for businesses to grow. So Jacek, tell me, you witnessed the growth of the industry in the past decades and how it evolved around Europe. From your perspective, where do you see the Western Balkans fit in on the whole picture?
I think you have done a fantastic job actually, because when we started ABSL here in Sarajevo, there was 6 years ago, almost exactly. And what's impressive is that now it's not only Bosnia and Herzegovina, you have actually 6 countries. So first, it shows that there is potential, it shows that you have a lot of talent, and it shows that you are growing and developing very quickly. Now with what's happening globally, because there's so many tectonic shifts in economy, in security, in technology, I think you have a chance to actually make your own brand internationally. And that's something that you should think about as ABSL in Western Balkans with the leaders. What is that specialty so that you can differentiate yourself?
I would agree with you, but when we say the region has a lot of potential, some might say potential isn't enough. You witnessed some panels today and some keynotes at the conference. What was your core memory, so to say, or what is your core advice you would give to the leaders you heard today? Because as said, potential sometimes isn't enough. What's the secret ingredient that is lacking, or is anything lacking from your opinion?
What I saw today on the conference, but also from the people I met and the conversations that I had, I think you have a nice mix, a pretty balanced mix in between people that are coming from a tech background and from a non-tech background, basically, from business services, right? And that means that theoretically, you should be able to be really good at putting things that are solution-oriented, something that's in between, not just tech or not just business services. That's one thing, and the question is, of course, how to do that. And the second thing, which is maybe the first thing, is your people are very entrepreneurial. From the people I met, even if they were in corporates or in bigger companies, they sounded very entrepreneurial. More than what I've seen, and maybe I shouldn't be saying this, but I will be saying this, more than what I've seen in Poland, more than what I've seen in Czech, in Romania, and many other countries in our broader, nearshore Eastern European region.
That's
really
great to hear.
Entrepreneurial, and that's great. And you need to find a way. How do you put that together to that, not only potential, but to, what is your specialty with those key drivers that you have in your DNA?
So speaking of putting it together, what would you advise with your strong also consultancy experience and everything you witnessed so far? What would be the first, let's say, 3 steps that the industry here needs to take on for a brighter journey, for further development?
What we said, right, was you have a lot of tech, you have a lot of business services, you have a lot of entrepreneurs.
Yes.
So currently one of the bigger tectonic shifts that's coming, it hasn't come really yet, is everything around AI. So, and that's a chance, because that means everybody's equal again. When you have tectonic shifts, everybody can make a brand for themselves. You can be from whichever place, assuming, of course, that you have a first mover advantage. So what I would look at today is to create that specialty, what are some vertical industries where you have a lot of tech and services and you have a lot of examples of great solutions you've made. Maybe that's in the industrial, so maybe FMCG, maybe oil and gas, maybe or not, or banking, insurance, financial services. You find maybe 2 or 3 of those verticals and say, we are the experts in solutioning in applying AI in those verticals and try to create a story around that with reference points because you have already those guys.
Of course. But speaking of brands, some theorists might say that brands are promises that are being kept and fulfilled again and again. The business service sector is evolving really fast. So how to keep up with that theory, in your opinion, to become a brand that fulfills the initial promise once again and again and again, but to keep up with the trends and the tectonic shifts you just mentioned?
Once you have figured out what those specialties are, go and target some companies in those 2-3 industries. We said we can't be all over, so we say choose, let's say, even 2 industries, right? So that it's not too wide.
Yes.
Find some really top-notch global leaders with brands in those industries. Make sure they set up a center here of solutions, IT.
But how to pitch them? What would you advise to our companies?
Exactly what I was saying today. You need to talk business, to go and pitch them and say, we're not only tech and services, and we don't talk P2P. I mean, let's assume it's automotive for argument's sake, right? We can talk cars. We know how to change the digital system in your car so that it's user-friendly, better because we've been doing it, etc., etc.
Absolutely.
We are a specialty company. We are providing services in some way, shape, or form for Mercedes, Daimler, for Audi, Volkswagen, for BMW. But we would really like to be a competence center. So in this area, and therefore what you get here is you go, for example, if this is the area, right, to Elon Musk and say, figure out, why don't you set up an R&D center here with just super IT people, for example?
There are actually some talks, while mentioning Elon Musk, for setting up certain centers here. But let's say you talked about automotive industry. This country here has a certain heritage, Bosnia and Herzegovina, regarding automotive industry. For argument's sake, for Volkswagen, yes, and the Yugo.
Was it produced here in Sarajevo?
No, some parts for Volkswagen were produced in Sarajevo, but the Yugo was produced in Serbia.
Okay.
But I think we shouldn't talk that much about Yugo because America wasn't that much satisfied. So what advice would you give? Should we rely on experience, previous heritage, and what we inherited from previous times while pitching new clients, new projects for today?
Of course, because you need to be your true self. For example, to give you an analogy the other way, for the strength of Poland, where I'm coming from and where ABSL started, it's that we are, that the way that I would say, we are in between being very structured or Germanic.
Absolutely.
And being a little bit more flexible because we've had to historically, we had to find solutions where there are no solutions. So on this way, we're very non-structured, so we're a little bit more like the Spanish, Italians, or Romanians. And I think the strength of Poland is able to balance that skill, where we're structured enough to be able to get things through so it doesn't get too messy. But we are also client-friendly enough and adaptable enough that we can make things happen, which in some, in some situations are something you really want.
Absolutely. Was there something today that stuck with your head and mind that you heard, either positive or negative, during the conference?
I think what stuck to my head the most was, or what I'm taking away the most from today, it's your entrepreneurial spirit. It would be interesting to hear you. I mean, now I will ask you a question. Why do you think that it seems that you have more entrepreneurs per capita here versus what I feel we have in, maybe I'm wrong, but in Romania, Hungary, Czech, or Poland, for example?
Well, in my personal opinion, we can start walking again. It's because the country...
Beautiful building.
Absolutely.
I don't know if we got this building around, but we should show how fantastic and beautiful it is.
In my personal opinion, the country here went through a lot of struggle in the previous years and decades. And there are new generations approaching the market, being multilingual, being flexible, having international degrees as well, and being eager to show the world and to show to themselves and ourselves we can do the transition right. We can shift from socialism to capitalism really fast and in our own way. But I think we need certain more pushes, certain more highlights to make it a proper functioning system, even though we have all those talents, as previously mentioned, and the entrepreneurial mindset, I think we're still lacking of certain skills that we can either learn through ABSL as a platform or learn by living. I think we're lacking in communication. Absolutely. We can do it vice versa. I think we're lacking in business communication, negotiation as such. And you mentioned certain drama regarding Polish mindset. Balkans has it too. We're all about being dramatic, exaggerating over stuff, and not being patient enough. I think, in my personal opinion, business needs time to grow, seeds need time to grow, and we're quite impatient because we went through a lot of struggle, as previously said, and we want everything fast. It can be good, but it's certain facts, when you mix it with drama, it can escalate really fast.
If you mix it with drama too, but if it's structured, you say, my background, I was educated in the US and I worked in a lot of American companies. You know what the American prerogative is like. It's not think. It's like act. And
absolutely.
And hopefully think some way, but act, action is a key driver. I think that's good.
I'm interested, are you pro for the theory, failing and learning by doing, or does everything need to be right and it's in its own place?
This is a difficult one because I think naturally unfortunately, I'm a perfectionist, but I've learned say it doesn't need to be 99% or 100%.
Yes.
And they called me Mr. 2 Pixel in their company because the slides were not right somewhere, so you can imagine. But, but I think today it needs to be at least 80-20, I'm still very, high on quality, that it needs to be really good, but it shouldn't be to the point of perfectionism.
Higher expectations from yourself or the teams you're working with?
As you know, both.
Yes.
As you know, both.
Absolutely.
But the key is, remember, that to go to 80%, to go from 80% good to 90% can sometimes mean double work.
Yes.
And from 90% to 100 can mean quadruple work.
How do you keep the balance? And how do you evaluate it for yourself and the teams you work with?
For me, it's a little bit of a mix of gut feel and gut feel, I think. Experience.
Absolutely. Where do you see the whole ABSL story evolving in the future? I think everyone asks you that, but from a personal point of view, what would you say, or where would you envision and like to see the whole story developing further?
I think, right now it's pretty clear. We have even stated that we want to be the global business service and technology, the global service business service association. From a lack of a better analogy, you can imagine what would be great to create is like an AmCham, but it's not about American, but to understand the construct.
I get it, the whole concept.
Exactly, concept. Create like an AmCham for business services by the members, for the members, globally.
How can we do it?
We're doing it, and you're part of it.
Absolutely.
And this is part of what we're doing right now.
So after a nice walk through the city hall, I think we got around 5,000 steps.
That's
minimum for today.
That's very good for, for maybe we don't need to run in the morning.
Absolutely. We'll skip morning fitness. Ladies and gentlemen, we had the pleasure to talk to Jacek Levernes, and join us for the next podcast session from the ABSL Western Balkans conference. Jacek, thank you for your time and this nice walk through the city hall.
Super beautiful. Thank you for coming and thank you for arranging this.
It was a pleasure.